Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, and you are watching Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And this is another brand new episode of Who's That Cosplayer? And joining me today on this brand new episode is Starry Arcana. Starry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Yo, thank you so much for coming on a brand new episode. It's like I always love interviewing cosplayers, and I just love the fact that so many people want to come up here and just share their stories and give advice and stuff. And just, you know, with cosplay, like there's so many cool avenues that you can go down. So I appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, definitely. There's like, just for like one hobby, like there's so many different ways you can kind of take it. And that's why even I love it so much too. So before we get into today's interview, everybody that's watching this video, make sure that you like it, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button, and you'll always be notified when we have new content here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And as D always says, podcast link down in the description. Like, follow, subscribe. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Starry, again, like I said, thank you. Like I'm one of those type of people where it's just like I'm always saying thank you because this is always an awesome, you know, feeling to just be interviewing everybody. And the first question that I always ask all of my guests is, what is your origin story? Every hero or villain has one. So tell everybody who you are. Okay, so I added Starry Arcana, but my name's Ash. I started cosplaying way back in the day. I think I started as a middle schooler, but that was after going to my first con as a fifth grader. Not quite fourth grade level, but like I went very, when I was very, very young. I went to New York Anime Festival when that was still a thing. And before they merged with New York Comic Con, and just there was this one Inuyasha cosplayer that like started it all for me. Like just seeing them in pretty sure it was the dealer's room, and I was just like starstruck completely. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize like that was a thing, that you could like dress up as your favorite characters and like embody them for a day. So even just seeing that, well, it was like a young kid is what got me interested in cosplaying. And I had been into anime before then, just like, of course, watching like 4Kids on Saturday mornings and stuff like that. I just I loved that so much.
God.
And jumped from that to Tsunami with Naruto. But I started cosplaying as a middle schooler with Vocaloid actually, and just kind of just getting an Amazon wig that took forever to actually get here, because at that time, like anything you ordered cosplay wise would always take over a month.
Yeah.
Just because of slower shipping and just eBay shenanigans. But like it's completely changed now. But from just wearing that wig, going to, I believe it was Anime Next, and just like kind of feeling the like, wow, like someone like me, I'm very introverted, very anxious, but I loved anime, I loved video games and stuff because of the really cool characters and just the ways that they could like do everything they wanted to do, make their dreams come true, and just be really cool in the process of doing that. But it was when I put that wig on for the first time as a 7th grade kid at Anime Next that I was like, oh, this is it. This is so cool. I can finally feel like confident as myself, which
that's
at
awesome.
that time, it's what I needed. It's what I really needed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's one of the things that I love about cosplay is that you can become whoever you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, say, for example, if there is like Inuyasha, for example, to piggyback off of what you said, you saw that person who was cosplaying as you didn't say, do you remember who they were cosplayed as?
Oh, Sesshomaru, I believe.
Oh, Sesshomaru. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So they were cosplayed as Sesshomaru. So it's like you see these people who cosplay and wear these costumes, and you're just like, man, I could do that too. And now I'm Inuyasha, or I'm Sesshomaru, or I'm Kagome, or I'm Sango, or even Shippo. There we go. And that's the thing with cosplay, is that you can be whoever you want to be. And I am a professional wrestler, and I know that one of my friends who, when he started in the wrestling business, Jay Kirby, I'm going to give that guy a shout out. One of the things that he told me is that growing up, you know, he was a huge nerd. You know, he used to get bullied and whatnot, and wrestling was always his outlet. He could watch that on TV, and he saw these larger than life athletes, and he was just like, man, it's just like when these guys are in the ring, it's just like they're the coolest people in the world. And that was one of the things that made him want to become a professional wrestler, because when he was in the ring, he was the coolest person in the ring. People were cheering for him. And that's, you know, the similarities between cosplay and wrestling, because it's like they both go hand in hand. I mean, you know, when it comes to your wrestling outfits, like me, for example, I always love to get creative with my outfits. You know, now I want to start doing some anime themed outfits. So, you know, it's just so awesome how being a nerd it's so acceptable now, and it's so cool. Everybody can be a nerd, and everybody can just go out here and have fun and not be judged. And I love how you said that when you went to your first con, it's like you just fell in love with everything. And that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to these cons and falling in love. Now, I want to piggyback off of something that you said, because you mentioned 4 kids, and something that we always joke about this on the podcast, but remember when One Piece was coming on 4 Kids, and they had that the song Dreamin', Don't Give It Up, Luffy. Now, let me ask you this. Did you know that, what did you think they were saying? Yayo, 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 or gotta go, gotta go, gotta go?
It was Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo.
You knew that?
Absolutely.
How did like this whole time, like I thought that they were saying gotta go, and then I looked up the lyrics, I was like, yayo, like what is this?
I don't know if it was just because like it felt easier to say as a kid instead of like let's go. So like Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo.
And now, do you remember the rap?
Oh, I wish I did. I don't at all.
No, but it's just funny. And then also too, because you mentioned 4 Kids, Shaman King just it just came out on Netflix, and I'm watching that right now. And then while I'm watching it, it makes me think about when I was a teenager, when Shaman King was coming on 4 Kids, and I was just a huge fan of it. So I always felt like it was one of those underrated animes that a lot of people didn't give that much attention to. But now that it's on Netflix, I just hope that a lot of people watch it. Now, to get back into the cosplay talk, you know, on your page, you have so many amazing cosplays that you've done, and I'm going to get to the best for last, but I just want to talk about some of the other ones that you have. Sailor Jupiter, I know the character, he doesn't have a name from the Persona game, but in the anime his name is Ren. I saw that. It's like you just have so many amazing cosplays on your page. So I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite ones that you've done so far?
Oh, and thank you so much for that. I feel like I'm getting hyped.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. I even you mentioned some of my favorites right there. Akira, I care about him a lot. I especially when that first Persona 5 trailer dropped, and I just saw him on the subway just kind of being like aloof and trying to like get a feel for his surroundings. Like I fell in love with his character then. So even I had to cosplay him, and he just has, his outfits are so much fun, and I feel like the way he interacts with the rest of the Persona 5 cast is just like, I love the snarkiness he adds to things, like in some of the dialogue options. So I try to bring that to my cosplay and just like feel really cool as like the leader of the Phantom Thieves. And I love cosplaying him. My favorite girl from Love Live, Yoshiko, even the one that's on screen right now.
And I did not do that on purpose.
Oh my gosh, that Happy Party Train cosplay, I love that so much. It's honestly, it's one of those songs where I was realizing like, oh, she needs more center time. Like Yoshiko needs more center time, but she's so much fun to be, from her kind of like more like Little Devil, like e-girl-esque online persona to like just kind of being like a nervous wreck in person. She's just so much fun to cosplay. And it's hard to think on the spot too. Another one that I really enjoyed too, I mean, Zhongli is one. I guess it would be Devil Maki. I had a lot of fun wearing.
Nice.
It had a lot of moving parts, and unfortunately I don't own it anymore, but I really enjoyed just like pushing like myself out of my own comfort zone a little bit by kind of doing something like still like cute Love Live-esque, but also like being a little spicy, a little sexy every once. I really enjoyed that outfit as a result too. Yeah,
I love that. Now, the person that you're cosplaying right now, who are you? Who are you cosplaying as?
So I'm cosplaying Zhongli from Genshin Impact.
Oh, nice,
He's
nice.
5,000-year-old grandpa who looks like max 30 years old.
So like
But
Inuyasha, pretty much.
yeah, I love his character so much, and unfortunately, I don't have him in game, and that's like the one thing that kills me
Mm,
the most. I wish I had him. I have Dialog instead, and I just plays him all the time. But Zhongli, he's very much like he has a lot of influence. Like he tries to hide his true identity as like Rex Lapis, I believe, in Liyue. But I love his dynamic of just being like, oh, like domineering, like powerful, like he can send like flying rocks at enemies. Like it's so cool. Like when he does that in game. But at the same time, like he'll just walk around without a wallet, even though he's like really, really rich, and just be like, "Oh, bro, I'm broke. I'm sorry. Can you please like let me buy something?" It's just I love the dynamic of like being super stern, but also being really cute at the same time, or unexpectedly cute is what I really love about him. So when I saw they had this available on Taobao, I like ran and ordered it so quick, and I'm happy to just I barely got him in time for Otakon, but I'm very glad that I can cosplay him, and I care about him a lot.
Yeah, well, the cosplay, it definitely looks dope, and I appreciate you wearing that up here for me. Genshin Impact, it's a game that everybody always, like all of the cosplayers that I interview, like they talk about how they always play it, they love it. And my co-host on the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, D, it's like he's always sending me pictures of new characters that are being added and whatnot. And I'm just like, yo, I really need to play this game because I always hear I always hear so many good things about it. And then we've interviewed some of the voice actors and actresses who have actually done work in the game. So it just always sucks because people talk about it. And I'm just like, man, like I feel so bad because it's like I haven't played this game yet. The only game I'm playing right now is Persona 3. I played.
Nice.
Have you played that one yet?
Yes, I have. I've played 3 through 5. I've watched 1 and 2, and I don't own them unfortunately, but Persona 3, it's so good. It's so good.
I'm enjoying it right now, and I can't wait to get to Persona 4. Persona 5 was really good. That was the first one that I played, and like how you said, how you fell in love with the characters, the story, the music. It was amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait till I beat Persona 3 so that way I can jump into Persona 4 because it's like they're all really good games. And then one of my friends was telling me that Atlas is supposed to be remastering Persona 1 and 2 so that way it can bring it to modern consoles. And if they do that, I'm down for it because if you, like everybody that's watching this right now, if you have not played Persona, I highly recommend it. I'm sure Starry highly recommends it as well because it's such a good game.
Yes.
I pinkies up to that. But you know, I want to ask you this now because when I was doing my research on you before I asked you to come up here to be interviewed, you know, I always just, you know, look through the feed on somebody's Instagram page, and like the first thing I saw that caught my eye was Lisa from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, I'm a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan. I love the series. Part 4 is my favorite part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Nice. And I seen that you cosplayed as Lisa, Bruno Bucciarati, and then, of course, the main girl herself.
Yes.
Jolene Cujo, Part 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It is coming out this December. Have you watched the trailer for it yet?
I have. I'm very, very excited. It was Friday night at Otakon when that trailer dropped, and I was screaming with my friends in the hotel lobby, especially when Jolene started doing her aura. I was like about to cry because I'm like, this is everything I've needed and more. And I love the new direction they're kind of taking the animation this time around. Part 5, I loved Part 5, but sometimes I was like, oh, I want like a little bit more like crisp details or like more lines, especially kind of incorporating more of Araki style. And I love how they're doing that already for Part 6. And I'm really, really excited. It's going to be so cool.
Same here, man. It's like Part 5, it was okay, but it wasn't one of my favorites. And I feel like the animation was one of the things that kind of played a part because when they brought back certain characters, like there was this scene where they had showed Polnareff and Jotaro, and I was just like, hold on, like how did Jotaro go from like this muscular 16-year-old to now he looks just like Giorno? And It's like I just wasn't a fan of that animation. But yeah, the part 6 animation, it looks on point. I did a reaction video for it, and you can watch that reaction video here or on our YouTube channel. But I was hyped. And when they made that announcement that it's coming out in December, and not only is it coming out in December, it's going to be on Netflix. Like, that means we're getting most of these seasons are between 30 to 40 episodes. So we're getting all of that at one time. Maybe it might be short because, you know, it is going to be on Netflix. Who knows? But if we're getting like 30 something episodes, like that's going to be epic. And like I already told my co-host Trav, I said, because that's coming out and Cobra Kai season 4 is coming out. And he's just like, yeah, Cobra Kai season 4 is going to be way bigger than JoJo. And I said, Trav, you don't know JoJo fans. Like,
I really hope it's like all at once, because otherwise, if they do like 2 drops, I mean, it'll be like 2 JoJo Fridays instead of like weekly. But I really hope it gets enough episodes to really go through everything. Especially, I'm reading the manga right now. I'm not entirely done with part 6, but like the end, I'm curious. I'm not gonna say what happens in the end. I've heard things. I hope they give plenty of time and like explanation necessary to get the ending right. And I hope it looks really cool. Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to spoil people, but it's just, I heard it gets kind of bonkers. So
who's that cosplayer?
Rekoy.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you on that. I was kind of spoiled on it when I played JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stars of Heaven, because like that's what kind of, you know, gave away certain things. And we interviewed Kira Buckland, who is in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime. She voiced Raimi on part 4 JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and she's a huge JoJo fan, and one of her goals is to voice Jolene Cujo on the dub of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So hopefully she gets it. Like we have our fingers crossed, our toes crossed, pinkies up, because it's just like, if you're a huge JoJo fan, you deserve that. Like, I would love to be a part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure if I was a voice actor. You know what I'm saying?
I believe that Jolen's Japanese seiyuu, like she is like a super mega JoJo fan, and even like she got into voice acting because of Jolen, I believe she said too. So I'm like, I'm glad she like her dreams came true, and like she's killing it as Jolen. Like already, just from the trailer, she's killing it.
Yes, I can't wait to watch it, man. Now, since we're still talking about JoJo, which part is your favorite one?
Oh, my answer. 4 used to be my favorite, and it's still definitely up there. Part 2, I really like part 2. I just love the hijinks with the gang in Italy, or just in Europe in general, not just Italy. I'm thinking part 5, but I mean, there are some things in part 2, like Stroheim, where I'm like, haven't aged the best, and I know that, and even with Smokey, I'm not even gonna begin, but it was just like the really impactful moments, like with Caesar's cross moment at the church, or just cars going into space, and like those things to me, it was just so ridiculous. But like, I love every time I even see just like clips of it or people memeing parts, like it's such a fun part, and that's why to me it is my favorite. But part 4 is like immediately afterwards, because just the sheer audacity of Rohan Kishibe. I love Rohan. He makes choices that I wouldn't necessarily make, but the pettiness of it all is so funny to me.
That especially when Dust Spoke Rohan came out, the OVA on Netflix, and it was the same way. Like my co-hosts, they do not like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I'm a super JoJo fan. I get obnoxious about it. Like I make JoJo references all the time. Usually when we're interviewing people, like they'll say something, I'll be like, yeah, that's a JoJo reference, and they get mad. But Rohan is an interesting character. Part 4 is just so good. Like I just love Kira. Kira is my favorite villain in the JoJo franchise, just because of how smart and calculating he is. Dio used to be my favorite villain, but Dio, he's just over the top. I mean, everybody loves Dio. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just looking forward to everything that's going to be coming out, and I need to finish reading the manga too, because like you said, there is some crazy stuff that happens at the end, And like that's what Kira was telling us, because it's something that connects part 6 and part 7, but you have to read it and you don't want to spoil it for people. So I totally understand that. So to get back on the cosplay topic, you were just at Otakon. Like, how was it going back? Was this your first con going to since the pandemic has kind of started getting, behind us, or have you gone to any cons before then?
Otakon was my first con back since the pandemic. Before then, the last one I'd been to was Katsu 2020. Mm-hmm. And I would say I'm just so thankful that people were really like willing to listen to regulations, that everyone was wearing their masks inside. The con itself was very, very strict on like, you better be wearing your mask or else we're not going to let you in to like any of the panels or even just like artist alley, dealer's room, etc. And they really didn't take any BS for people trying to like get around those guidelines. And as a result, I felt so comfortable. And I'm glad everything was really spaced out. So I was never feeling like, oh, it's getting too crowded in here. I'm like shoulder to shoulder with the people around me. Everything was just very spread out. All of the like mask mandates and everything were kept in place. And I had a really good time as a result of that. And it just made me realize like in the moment where I'm like finally seeing friends again, finally being able to like go to panels and the masquerade and everything, that I'm like, oh God, I've missed this so much. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been the same cosplaying from home. Well, like I love wearing costumes no matter where I am, because it's still like, oh, I can like embody cool people. It's still being like with other like-minded people in a space and just like geeking out over everything, especially when that part 6 trailer came out too, even just being there with friends and not like in my bed just kind of like screaming to myself, but just getting hyped with other people. I miss that so much, and I'm happy to be back as long as other cons can follow suit and really be vigilant on masks, on other regulations like state-wise. Like I know New York right now is very much like masks only, vaccinations. Yeah. You have to be vaccinated in order to go to events. And I feel like if that kind of stays on trend, I'm hoping that more things can kind of open up and people can stay safe and have fun and not worry about getting COVID per se.
No, I agree with you. And, things can just get back to normal, because I mean, it's the same thing like with me with wrestling. The pandemic happened, and during the pandemic, there were still some promotions that were still running, but it's like fans weren't allowed in the building. So pretty much wrestlers, they were just wrestling in the ring, and it was being filmed and put online and whatnot. But it's not the same. It's not the same wrestling in a building where there's nobody inside of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the fans, like they bring that energy. And when I wrestled back in July, like that room, like it was amazing, because it's like the fans, it's like they hadn't been to a live show in so long. And it was one of those things too where it's like you had to be vaccinated and all that stuff as well. But it was just like that energy just coming out to the ring. It's amazing. So I totally understand how it feels to be back at a con, to be with friends, to see the JoJo Part 6 trailer and react to it live with your friends and other fans of the show. And hopefully things continue that way, because NecoCon is coming up. I'm looking forward to going to that this year, and just hanging out with some friends, and finally cosplaying as Midoriya from My Hero Academia, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, I wanted to bring up now, you are a member of the Honey Pop Dreamers, and we've had a couple of the members up here on the podcast, and I just love the group. I love the dances that everybody does in the group. I know on your page, like you have your own videos where you're dancing up there as well. So I would just want to ask you, like, how did you get into becoming a Honey Pop Dreamer?
Oh, I actually, before even like doing more like Love Live dances and stuff, I did ballet as a kid, but I ended up stepping away from it just because I ended up pursuing music. And just what made me fall back into Love Live was the mobile game, and like playing the rhythm game was so much fun for a while, but at one point I was like, this would be so much fun to try to do myself, like actually learn these dances. Like I know I can dance to some degree. I don't know if I'm at the level of like the actual like Love Live Seiyu and everything, but I really missed dancing and feeling confident that way. So even before Honey Pop Dreamers, I had done some other groups. I kind of like went in and out just because of like my own kind of busy schedule. But I ended up joining Honey Pop Dreamers during the pandemic because masquerades weren't a thing. There was no cons to really go to and perform there, and just being able to like even just learn things remotely and like have things to look forward to, like, oh, I can't wait to see how the final product's going to be with everybody. Like dancing to Gmo I Dash actually was the first song I was on board with them, and it just I really missed it. And just being able to perform again, to like feel confident as an idol almost, and like be like the characters that I like respect so much from the Love Live series in particular. That's why I'm glad I like hopped on board with that. It's been really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because like I said, I mean, just seeing the dance numbers that, you know, everyone does, and I just love the, you know, the combination of doing the dances and then having scenes from the anime play in the videos of the dances, and it's just awesome. And I wanted to, you know, piggyback off of something that you had just said, because you said you were doing ballerina, and then not you were doing ballerina, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
You were a ballerina, and then you kind of put dance behind you and you started doing music. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you get into wanting to perform?
Oh, it wasn't so much that I wanted to. My parents were very much big on like me trying lots of different things as a kid. So even I didn't just do ballet. I did ballet starting at age 3 at my local YMCA, but I had also tried soccer and softball and like other sports as well. But I ended up kind of really not liking sports all that much and kind of leaning more into ballet, especially since it was still kind of artistic, but I was like getting all of the energy I had as a kid out. But yeah, at a certain point, the classes at the YMCA were, I don't think they had them for kids like elementary school age. So I switched to a pretty strict Russian ballet studio, and I rehearsed a lot. A lot of my early elementary school years were just kind of like in classes during the week. And even compared to other kids, I don't even think I really took that many classes, maybe max 1 to 2 a week. Some kids were there like 5 days a week, if not more. But to me, it was more like the weekly classes, like they were fun for like the people I would meet there and everything. But what I looked forward to the most was the performances, because I was like, oh, finally, like all these plies and jumps and all these exercises are finally going to something. That's not to say either that like I didn't still feel like a little bit of like performance anxiety like going up there, but what made it more manageable was definitely feeling like I wasn't alone, that there were like so many other ballet dancers with me, and we'd been practicing dances over and over and over again, just making sure that like every little detail was right and that we could put on a good performance for other people. And like that's sort of like a principle I still really value today. Now I play viola now, like semi-professionally, I guess.
Nice.
But even then, I prefer so much more like playing in a quartet or in an orchestra rather than just me and going doot, doot, doot. So even then, I much preferred doing quartets and orchestra over just playing by myself, because then like that pressure of like, oh, it's all on you, you've got to do your best, is kind of like split the more people are there. And to me, I value so much more like what you can create with like the different strengths, weaknesses, and just other energies of other people, and like just making the most out of that. So that's why even I love doing like idol groups and stuff, because then we can all just kind of like have fun, like, and perform and like be seen, do what we love most, which is like learning dances, performing Love Live stuff, and I guess not feeling so lonely about it or feeling so much pressure on just one person's performance, I guess.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and because it's a lot more fun when you're doing a project together with a team compared to doing it by yourself. Now, doing it by yourself, it's not an issue or a problem, and more power to people that want to perform solo, which is cool. But I agree that there are a lot more eyes on you compared to when you're working with a team. I feel like you can bounce off of each other, or if there ever comes that moment where you might feel like that you're going to slightly slip up, you can see your teammate, and then it's just like boom, like you're good to go. And I 100% agree with you on that. Now, I want to ask you this, because, we've been talking about cosplay, we've been talking about dance, we've been talking about music. Now, and I want to ask you, when you're not doing any of that stuff, what are some of your hobbies that you're into?
Ooh, I would say I'm really into cycling. I really enjoy just like being able to like exercise, but also like see like my neighborhood around me and just like kind of step back from just like the hecticness of like working remote, in my case, going to grad school remote, and just like be outside, like just realize, like kind of ground myself in the present moment. Like that's one thing I really enjoy. But also, I do watch a lot of anime. I do play a lot of video games. Because in other ways, like if I'm like too tired to be like riding my bike around, or if it's like the middle of the night and I just want an escape, I feel like those two outlets really served me well and just kind of helps me get out of my own head, especially in quarantine.
It was kind of during the time, this was back in April, that I really started to pick up a lot of new games at once, even Genshin being one of them actually. And just kind of using that to, like, of course, like I had to face reality. Like it was a tough time. Clearly, I was worried about whether my family was going to live. Thank God, everyone who had COVID is okay. Thank God.
Yeah, that's a good thing to hear, because it's definitely a scary feeling when you hear friends or family that have it, and like all you can do is just sit on the sidelines. You really can't do anything. Like one of my friends, he has it right now. And, I just feel so bad, because it's just like, I'm like, well, how can I help him? And I told him, I was just like, if you need anything, like I'll drop it off at your house and then you can come and get it. And I actually had a COVID scare back in February. And it's just one of those things where it does stress you out, because you hear so many stories and so many scenarios of people who have it. And, it's just always a blessing when, people, they beat it, you know what I'm saying? And it definitely raises awareness of how serious it can be.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, for that's why, like, I can't joke around with COVID and everything. It deserves to be taken seriously. And even whenever I had other friends like get COVID as well, I'm glad they're okay too. But just like being there for the people that you care about in these hard times is like, I feel like that's like the most important thing we can do, is just like check in on each other, but also take precautions to stay safe and everything too.
Yep, I 100% agree with you on that. So I want to ask you, like, what are some of the games that you're playing besides Genshin and Love Live?
Well, I've gotten into another rhythm game, D4DJ, just because it's a little harder than Love Live. There's like a slider aspect to it, which like it makes things more complicated. But I've been really enjoying that. I've actually gone to Ace Attorney, like that. I wasn't expecting.
I've always wanted to play those games.
They're really fun, and you can get them on Steam and I believe on Switch now too. I'm on the second game, Justice for All, right now, and the hijinks, it's so much fun. I'm really enjoying that. And I just picked up the new World Ends With You game, so I'm going to start that soon. I'm really excited. The first game was really, really good, and I'm kind of just curious to see what new direction they'll take it in for the next installment. So yeah.
Nice. And then what animes are you watching right now?
Right now, I'm watching Higurashi. That I completely like binged during the pandemic, because one friend of mine was very much like, you need to get into this right now. There's so much more on top of Higurashi. The creator of that visual novel, now turned anime, has like a series of titles that are all kind of intertwined with one another in terms of like the plot, like character significance and stuff. So I was like, I have to get on board with this. Watched all of the older anime for that, caught up now with the latest season, and
nice.
So good. And I guess for me, I really kind of missed seeing like visual novels get adapted into anime, but actually having good adaptions, because boy, some don't.
No, yeah, I agree with you on that. Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway was a novel that just got adapted, and it's on Netflix now. Really good. I highly recommend it to everybody that's watching it. And we did a review for it, so it's on the channel if anybody wants to check it out.
What else? I'm trying to think of what else. I just finished Fruits Basket's 3rd season.
Nice.
And, I was like bawling my eyes out. I read the manga as a kid, and I mean, I bawled when I finished the manga too, but just seeing like a proper adaptation again of like a series I loved as a kid, it was a great way to end like that. Spring season, I believe, is when the show ended. Boy, now I am watching shows and now I'm blanking on the ones that I watch. I remembered one more. This is I believe it's based off like a Chinese comic. It's called Click. And that it's about these two guys that run a photography studio. But what's like quirky about it is that they can kind of jump into photos and like almost change the past. Like if someone, like people could come into their shop, like here's a photo. I wanted to make sure I said goodbye to this person one last time before this big earthquake was one time they jumped back, and they can kind of like control bodies, but and the way that the power gets kind of complicated and just makes the plot more interesting. I definitely recommend it. I feel like not enough people were watching it during the spring, but I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I definitely feel you when it comes to anime recommendations, because there's some really good ones out there that a lot of people don't know about unless you actually just check it out. And like one of my favorites that I watched last year, it was The Great Pretender. The music was good, the animation was good, the cast was good, and for the month of September, this is going to be our Great Pretender month, where we have interviewed some of the voice actors of the anime. So everybody make sure that you check those out on the podcast, and then those videos will be up here on our YouTube. And the final question that I have to ask for you before we wrap this thing up is, to anybody who wants to get into cosplay, what is some advice that you would give to them?
I guess for people who want to get into cosplay, the biggest thing is very much cosplay who you like. You do not have to be the most popular character of the season. In fact, it's more fun to cosplay characters you love and feel like your best self in, rather than just cosplaying the main character of every shonen anime, for example, right now. And I would definitely say too, take your time with learning skills. Cosplay, there's a lot of different aspects to it, from the wigs to makeup to costumes. There's a lot going on. Focus with what you know best and then build your skill set out from there. There's so many tutorials online, even if you feel like a complete beginner in all of the above, for example. So it's the sort of thing, there's definitely resources out there to help, and you can go, and even like so many people have like tutorials on how to even make a full outfit, for example. Like there's so many ways to get into it now, and even like just taking things like from what you know best and growing more, and like your skill sets more and more and more, I feel like is a good way to get into cosplay without feeling super overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And along those lines too, it does not matter if you've completely made a costume as your first time around, or if you've bought a costume too. Just work with what you feel the most comfortable with, and don't forget to have fun. That's really the main thing. Like, this is for you. Should be something that you enjoy doing. And I really hope you have as much fun as you can while getting started with cosplay. Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you. And that's one thing that I always say every time I ask that question. And I love the fact that every cosplayer says the same thing. It's all about having fun, because if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? And so with that being said, thank you, Starry, for joining me on another brand new episode of Who's That Cosplayer? And before I let you go, tell everybody in social media land where they can find you at.
Sure. My @ on basically everything from Instagram to Twitter to TikTok is Starry_Arcana.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching another brand new episode of Who's That Cosplayer? You know where you can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at King Benji _Banks on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook at Benjamin Banks. I should be the first person to pop up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you again, everybody, for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I always say, keep that pinky up, stay positive. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Peace.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching another episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the channel. Podcast, we got that too. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit that bell for further episodes and notifications. Thanks a lot to our patrons. And if you don't mind, join the Patreon. We'll be having new specials coming up soon.